You may be genuinely surprised to learn that some of the most popular vegetables, the very ones you believe are healthy and consume every day, can actually slowly undermine your health after the age of 60. These vegetables do not cause an immediate decline in well-being, but as you age, their regular consumption gradually erodes the very things that give you freedom: leg strength, coordination, heart function, and vascular stability. Research conducted by American Institutes of Gerontology and Nutrition has shown that older adults who consumed certain types of vegetables on a daily basis were more likely to experience balance issues, reduced microcirculation in the legs, muscle cramps, fluctuating blood pressure, and weakened muscular strength. At first glance, everything seems harmless: cucumbers, potatoes, corn. But it is behind this apparent simplicity that there are compounds capable of intensifying inflammation, depleting essential minerals, irritating blood vessels, and disrupting the function of the nervous system. And after the age of 60, the body is no longer able to cope with such stress as it once could. That is why in this video, you will receive a list of 7 vegetables that you need to urgently reassess in your diet. I will explain why they are potentially harmful, how they affect your blood vessels, joints, and brain, and what you can use instead, not just to feel better, but to actually preserve mobility, mental clarity, and strength in your legs. Be sure to watch until the end. In the final part, I will talk about one particularly misleading vegetable, which is often promoted as extremely beneficial, yet in reality, it is one of the most damaging to the body after the age of 60, and chances are you are eating it right now. This video is going to be incredibly informative and helpful. If you want to take control of your health like a pro, give it a like, and let's get started. Star 1. White potatoes, a comfort food that quietly weakens strength and stability after the age of 60. Potatoes, that soft, filling, familiar taste from childhood. Mashed potatoes with gravy at family dinners, fried potatoes on Sundays, a baked potato wrapped in foil, all of these are more than just food. They represent the feeling of home, comfort, and care. And that is exactly why the truth about them sounds so unexpected, especially for those who are already past the age of 60. The problem is that white potatoes, despite appearing harmless, carry risks for people whose strength, balance, and vascular health have become especially fragile with age. It is not that they are toxic or inherently dangerous. White potatoes are a starchy food with a very high glycemic index, which means that after eating them, blood sugar levels spike almost as quickly as they do after consuming sugar or white bread. A 2023 study by the Harvard School of Public Health revealed that older adults who regularly ate white potatoes were 38% more likely to experience glucose spikes compared to those who replaced them with slower digesting carbohydrates, such as sweet potatoes or whole grains. At first glance, this may not seem like a serious issue, but if these spikes occur regularly, they trigger microinflammation in the blood vessels, especially those that supply the legs, brain, and heart. And in older individuals whose capillaries are already narrowed and whose vascular elasticity has declined, this leads to a buildup of problems: leg cramps, cold feet, numb toes, and even loss of balance. In 2022, the University of Colorado published a study indicating that older patients who consumed high amounts of potato dishes performed 22% worse on balance and coordination tests than those who preferred vegetables, rich fiber, and antioxidants. But that is not all. Foods with a high glycemic index, such as white potatoes, contribute over time to the development of arteriosclerosis, a condition where the walls of blood vessels become rigid and lose their flexibility. This disrupts blood flow to the legs and brain, leading to chronic fatigue and slower reaction times. All of these are factors that directly increase the risk of falls and the loss of independence. Now add to this the way potatoes are usually prepared, with butter, cream, cheese, and salt in your favorite mashed or baked recipes. All of these ingredients drastically increase the strain on the heart. In 2023, the American College of Cardiology confirmed that potatoes combined with saturated fats increase the risk of lipid profile disorders in older adults by 31%, even in individuals with an overall normal body weight. And if that were not enough, white potatoes on their own contain almost no protective compounds. Unlike carrots, beets, or even pumpkin, they have very few antioxidants. the very nutrients that defend cells from oxidative stress, which is a key factor in tissue aging, weakened immunity, and declining muscle strength. So every time an older adult puts white potatoes on their plate, they are making a choice not towards strengthening the body, but toward weakening it. This is particularly concerning for those who already suffer from high blood pressure, diabetes, reduced sensation in the legs, or cardiovascular issues. What can be done? Giving up potatoes does not mean giving up taste and comfort. It is simply a step toward a wiser choice. White potatoes can be replaced with sweet potatoes, which are rich in beta-carotene and fiber, or with boiled cauliflower, mashed celery, pumpkin, or parsnip. These foods nourish not only the stomach, but also the blood vessels, nerves, brain, and muscles. Choosing foods that support steady energy, vascular flexibility, and stable steps. That is true self-care in the deepest sense. Because leg strength, mental clarity, and confidence in movement are what determine how free, fulfilling, and active your life will be after the age of 65. And white potatoes, they can remain a part of your warm memories. But in the present, you have the chance to make a choice that works for you, not against you. Sasha 2, cucumbers. A deceptively light path to dehydration and muscle weakness after the age of 60. Cucumbers are one of the most popular vegetables in the diets of older adults. They are easy to add to salads, they are refreshing, they do not overload the stomach, and to many people they seem completely harmless. During the summer, they are eaten by the plateful, and in the winter, pickled, marinated, or canned. However, behind that crisp freshness lies a characteristic that is rarely discussed seriously, especially in regard to the aging body, where any imbalance of fluids, electrolytes, and minerals can lead to weakness, dizziness, and loss of stability. The first important point is this: cucumbers contain more than 96% water, yet they provide almost none of the nutrients necessary to support muscles, blood vessels, and the nervous system. Unlike tomatoes, broccoli, or spinach, cucumbers have extremely low levels of B vitamins, almost no magnesium, and only minimal amounts of potassium, an essential electrolyte for heart function and leg muscles. At first glance, this might seem insignificant. But imagine this: you eat a large serving of cucumbers, especially with salt, and as a result, you experience a strong diuretic effect without replenishing the minerals lost. In 2023, the National Institute on Aging at the University of Washington published a study stating that older adults who regularly consumed salted or fresh cucumbers more than twice a day had an average reduction of 9% in blood potassium levels and reported more frequent muscle weakness and leg cramps. Potassium is essential for muscle contraction and a stable heart rhythm. Its deficiency can manifest as quick fatigue while walking, unsteadiness, and a feeling of weak legs. This is especially dangerous for those who take diuretic medications. When combined with cucumbers, the loss of electrolytes can increase dramatically. This is not just a theory. According to Michigan State University, potassium deficiency raises the risk of falls in older adults by 35%, particularly when combined with dehydration. The situation becomes worse when it involves pickled or salted cucumbers. These products contain extremely high levels of sodium, up to 1,200 milligrams per 100 grams. That is nearly double the recommended daily sodium limit for individuals with high blood pressure. Salt causes the body to retain water, puts stress on the kidneys, raises blood pressure, and leads to leg swelling, which limits mobility and creates a sensation of heaviness. Additionally, pickling often involves vinegar and spices that irritate the gastrointestinal tract. For older adults, this may cause burning sensations, heartburn, and flare-ups of chronic gastritis. Some types of preserved cucumbers also contain trace amounts of preservatives, such as sodium benzoate, which, when consumed frequently, may negatively affect the liver and increase levels of inflammatory markers in the blood. What can be done? Completely giving up cucumbers is not necessary, especially in the summer when they can be refreshing. But it is important to monitor quantity. For an older adult, a safe portion of fresh cucumbers is no more than 50 to 70 grams per day, without salt or vinegar, preferably combined with foods rich in magnesium and potassium, such as boiled lentils, avocado, or arugula leaves. Pickled and marinated cucumbers are best saved for occasional use, and they should absolutely not be paired with potatoes, fried foods, or coffee. This combination places significant strain on the blood vessels and kidneys. Leg health, walking stability, and heart rhythm are not determined only by genetics and medications. They are also shaped by the choices we make in the kitchen. Even a simple vegetable like a cucumber can work against you if consumed without moderation. On the other hand, the right understanding of your diet can offer more than just strength. It can give you confidence that every step you take remains steady, strong, and free. 3. Eggplants, a hidden threat to mobility and comfort after the age of 60. At first glance, eggplant seems harmless, even healthy. It is often featured in recipes for balanced diets. It looks attractive with its deep purple color, and it has a soft, delicate texture. But when it comes to health after the age of 65, especially the health of your legs, joints, and overall ease of movement, this vegetable may not be the ally you have come to believe it is. The issue is that eggplant contains solanine, a natural chemical compound produced by plants in the nightshade family, which includes potatoes and tomatoes, to protect themselves from pests. In small amounts, solanine is not dangerous. However, for older adults with a weakened immune response, it can become a trigger for chronic inflammation, especially in the joints and soft tissues. According to a study published in 2022 in the Journal of Inflammation Research and conducted by Arizona State University, older adults with osteoarthritis who consume nightshade vegetables at least 4 times a week showed inflammation markers in the blood that were 21% higher than in those who excluded these foods from their diets. People with existing joint issues, including arthritis, gout, and neuralgia, were especially sensitive to these reactions. Inflammation can show up in many different ways. It is not always sharp pain. It can be a feeling of stiffness in the knees, heaviness in the calves, or weakness in the feet that appears when trying to climb stairs or walk through a store. If ignored, these signs gradually erode confidence in movement, making walking unstable and limiting physical freedom. And the ability to walk, stand up without assistance, and maintain balance is the foundation of independence in old age. Moreover, solanine does not affect only the joints. A 2023 study by the University of Georgia showed that even when cooked, eggplant retains about 60% of its original solanine content. This means frying, baking, or stewing does not fully eliminate it. With regular consumption, the cumulative effect becomes especially significant for individuals over the age of 65. In addition to inflammation, solanine can irritate the gastrointestinal tract and reduce muscle tone, which is particularly dangerous for the legs. When muscles become sluggish and less responsive, it directly affects balance. Before long, a person may begin to avoid long walks and eventually feel hesitant to stand up without support. Unfortunately, this is how a decline in mobility often begins, quietly and gradually. It is important to understand that not every older person will immediately experience a decline from eating a single eggplant dish. But after the age of 65, the body's ability to resist small but repeated stressors decreases. And while many vegetables strengthen tissues, restore blood vessels, and support brain function, eggplant can act as a hidden saboteur, especially in those with pre-existing inflammatory conditions. From an emotional perspective, the loss of mobility is not just a physical burden. It often leads to feelings of vulnerability, dependence, and limitation. When joint pain or fear of falling makes someone skip a walk, decline social outings, or avoid simple errands, the quality of life suffers. And all of this might be caused by a vegetable that seemed completely innocent. If you're used to eating eggplant, it may be time to reconsider that habit, especially if you are already noticing mild leg pain, stiffness in movement, or fatigue after walking. Of course, some people can tolerate solanine without problems, but statistics show that 3 out of 10 older adults with arthritis or musculoskeletal issues experience worsening symptoms just 3 to 5 days after regularly eating nightshade vegetables, according to the National Institute for Rheumatic Aging in the United States. There are many alternatives: zucchini, cauliflower, broccoli, and pumpkin. All of them are free of solanine and, on the contrary, help reduce inflammation, strengthen joints, and support the health of your legs and blood vessels. Replacing one vegetable with another may seem like a small change, but it can make a huge difference in the quality of your life. Still, eggplant is only one of these deceptively harmful foods. There are others, bright, attractive, and popular, that can slowly drain your strength. Some of them affect the brain, others the circulatory system, and some go straight for the leg muscles. Want to find out which of them might be hiding in your kitchen and which ones are best to eliminate if you want to preserve energy and balance for as long as possible? Move on to the next section. There is a lot you may not expect. 4. Green bell pepper, a hidden spark of inflammation that undermines leg and vascular health after the age of 60. As we age, every decision we make about food becomes more important. The body no longer tolerates carelessness, and the consequences of seemingly harmless foods can show up not right away, but over months or even years. One such food is the green bell pepper. Bright, crunchy, familiar from childhood, many people consider it a symbol of healthy eating. But paradoxically, for the aging body, it may not be the ally it appears to be. It is not just because green bell peppers belong to the nightshade family. Their real peculiarity lies in their lectin content, specific proteins that serve a protective function in plants. In the human body, especially with age, these proteins can bind to the cells of the intestinal lining, weakening its barrier function and interfering with the absorption of essential nutrients. According to a 2022 study by the Laboratory of Aging and Immune Function at Tufts University, people over the age of 65 who were sensitive to lectins had twice the level of inflammatory cytokines in their blood compared to those who excluded nightshade vegetables, including green bell peppers, from their diet. What does this mean in practice? It starts with small things. Your legs begin to feel heavy. It becomes harder to get up in the morning, and your gait feels less steady. You might notice a slight tingling in your toes, or a feeling as if your shoes have become tighter. These are not just signs of aging. They may be symptoms of chronic low-grade inflammation that reduces nerve sensitivity, worsens circulation, and weakens muscular response. The legs are the first to suffer. The Center for the Study of Falls in Older Adults at the University of North Carolina reported in 2023 that low-grade inflammation caused by dietary lectins increased the risk of balance problems and falls by 34% in people over the age of 65, especially among those who consumed green bell peppers and other nightshade vegetables on a daily basis. And here is another unfortunate truth. Unlike red, yellow, and orange bell peppers, which are fully ripened, green peppers contain only about half the antioxidants. For example, according to the National Institute of Nutrition and Aging in the United States, red bell peppers contain up to 127 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams, while green peppers contain only about 63 milligrams. In other words, you get less benefit and more potential harm. Of course, cooking partially destroys lectins, but even after baking or stewing at temperatures above 100 degrees Celsius, 212 degrees Fahrenheit, about 40% of lectins remain active. This is especially true for undercooked or lightly sautéed vegetables, which are commonly used in salads or omelets. It is important to understand that not everyone will experience a negative effect from a single dish containing green peppers. But if you already live with arthritis, digestive disorders, vascular issues, or diabetes, your body is more sensitive to even mild dietary irritants. And for an aging body that needs to preserve every bit of energy, stability, and strength, such a food can be just enough to begin slowly undermining health from within. The solution may seem simple. Replace green peppers with their riper counterparts, red, yellow, or orange. These not only have a milder flavor, but are richer in antioxidants, lutein, and carotenoids that protect vision and support the circulatory system. Or try removing nightshade vegetables entirely for a couple of weeks and monitor any changes. Many people notice an improvement in how they feel within 10 to 14 days. Sometimes the choice of what not to eat can be more important than the choice of what is healthy, especially when the goal is to maintain the ability to move without fear, to stand strong, to stay responsive, and to live actively. Green bell peppers, unfortunately, too often hide behind a healthy label, when in reality their effect may be the opposite. But this is not the end of the story. The next vegetable is even more deceptive. It is familiar, simple, and often part of the daily diet, but it may interfere with heart function, damage blood vessels, and weaken the tone of the legs, even if it looks completely harmless on the surface. Ready to learn the truth about it? Then let's move on to the next section. For 5, corn, a sweet deception for blood vessels and balance after the age of 60. Corn seems harmless. Its golden kernels have a satisfying crunch, It looks sunny and inviting, and its taste brings pleasant memories of summer, picnics, and warmth. Whether boiled, canned, or roasted, corn has firmly established itself in the everyday diet of millions of Americans, especially among older adults. But beneath this soft, comforting surface lies a story that everyone who cares about their mobility, memory, and vascular health after the age of 65 needs to hear. Let us start with the most important point. Corn is one of the most carbohydrate-dense vegetables, and most of these carbohydrates are in the form of rapidly absorbed glucose. In 2023, the National Institute on Aging at Johns Hopkins University published data showing that older adults who consumed corn daily experienced sharper fluctuations in blood sugar levels than those who preferred slower digesting carbohydrates like legumes, broccoli, or lentils. Why does this matter? Because every spike in blood sugar is a blow to the blood vessels, especially those that supply the lower limbs and the brain. High sugar levels damage the inner lining of capillaries, reduce vascular flexibility, and impair vascular responsiveness. This leads to reduced sensation in the feet, poorer circulation, and even muscular weakness in the legs. That is where the unsteady gait, leg cramps, and the feeling of heavy legs begin. But that is not all. Corn ranks among the top 10 vegetables most commonly produced from industrially modified varieties. According to the University of California at Davis, up to 88% of the corn grown in the United States is genetically modified. This means it often contains trace amounts of glyphosate, a chemical used to protect against weeds. Although the doses are minimal, a 2022 study by the University of Minnesota found that in older adults with chronic liver and kidney diseases, glyphosate can accumulate in tissues and worsen oxidative stress. Another concern lies in the lectins found in the outer shell of corn kernels. For an aging body, especially when digestion is not as efficient as it once was, lectins can irritate the intestinal lining, cause bloating and discomfort, and, most importantly, interfere with the absorption of vital vitamins and minerals. In 2023, the National School of Nutrition at the University of North Carolina reported that older adults who regularly consumed corn and corn-based products, including cornflakes, tortillas, and cornmeal, had blood levels of magnesium and vitamin B6 that were 14 to 17% lower compared to a control group. Magnesium and vitamin B6 are essential for nerve impulse transmission, muscle contraction, blood pressure stability, and serotonin production. Their deficiency may not be immediately noticeable, but it gradually leads to symptoms such as irritability, insomnia, leg cramps, and dizziness. Another factor that worsens the situation is the way corn is typically prepared. In most households, it is served with salt, butter, or sugar. But in older age, even a small excess of salt can raise blood pressure, cause fluid retention, lead to swelling, and place additional stress on the heart. Of course, not everyone will feel the effects from just a few spoonfuls of corn. But regular daily consumption, especially in those who already have vascular or neurological issues, can become the very factor that hinders recovery, slows progress, and reduces stability. What can be used instead? Boiled green peas, string beans, pumpkin puree, quinoa, or cooked amaranth are excellent alternatives. These foods provide a feeling of fullness, help maintain stable blood sugar levels, and nourish the muscles without triggering inflammatory responses. Sometimes the most caring decision is to tell yourself, I choose not only taste, but also the health of my legs, blood vessels, and brain. Because mobility and freedom are not things you can postpone. They are built in the kitchen, every day, every week, throughout your life. 6. Celery, a green trap for blood pressure and brain vessels after the age of 60. Celery has firmly established itself in many people's minds as a healthy food. It is crunchy, low in calories, and often added to salads, juices, and stews. Older adults especially tend to consider it beneficial due to its diuretic properties and lightness. But what seems harmless is not always safe, especially for those over the age of 65 who struggle with unstable blood pressure, sensitive blood vessels, or heightened anxiety. In reality, celery can quietly undermine the stability of the cardiovascular system, particularly in older individuals. To begin with, it contains a compound called apigenin, a plant flavonoid that in small amounts may have a mild calming effect. However, in older adults whose neural activity has already slowed down, it can lead to increased sluggishness, dizziness, and reduced mental clarity. According to a study conducted in 2022 by the Center for Gerontology at the University of Wisconsin, individuals over the age of 65 who consumed more than 200 grams of celery per day for 2 weeks showed a 17% decrease in reaction speed and a 12% decline in memory compared to a control group. But perhaps the most underestimated danger lies in celery's strong diuretic effect. It does not appear immediately, but builds up over time, leading to the loss of not just water, but also crucial electrolytes such as potassium and sodium. These electrolytes regulate heart rhythm, muscle tone, and help maintain stable blood pressure. When they become depleted, symptoms may include leg weakness, dizziness when standing up, calf cramps, and even fainting. In 2023, the University of North Carolina published data showing that older adults who regularly consumed large amounts of celery more frequently reported episodes of orthostatic hypotension, a sudden drop in blood pressure upon standing, often accompanied by loss of balance. This is one of the most common causes of falls in the elderly. Moreover, celery often contains residual levels of nitrates and pesticides, particularly in greenhouse-grown varieties. The liver and kidneys of older adults do not work as efficiently as they once did, and these substances can accumulate, placing added strain on blood vessels and the nervous system. A study published by the University of Michigan Medical School in 2022 confirmed that 27% of elderly patients who consumed celery daily for 4 consecutive weeks showed worsened kidney filtration markers and increased symptoms of chronic fatigue. And finally, it is important to mention the potential for allergic responses. While celery does not often cause classic reactions such as swelling or rashes, older adults may experience intolerance symptoms such as stomach discomfort, bloating, blood pressure fluctuations, and feelings of anxiety. When combined with medications, especially diuretics, antihypertensives, and neuroleptics, celery may amplify side effects. What should you do? First, there is no need to completely give up celery if you enjoy it, but it is better to limit intake to 50 to 60 grams per day as part of a salad or soup, rather than consuming it as juice or in large portions. Second, it is important to monitor your body's response. If you notice dizziness, weakness, frequent urination, or numbness in the legs, it may be a sign that this food does not suit you. As an alternative, you can use green beans, spinach, or young cabbage. They provide the same crunch and freshness, but do not have the diuretic or sedative effects. They do not deplete electrolytes, do not overload the kidneys, and supply the body with antioxidants. Remember, even a green and diet-friendly vegetable can place a hidden burden on the body, especially in older age. Supporting brain function, vascular health, and physical balance also means making intentional choices in favor of foods that work with your body, not against it, at every step. 7. Canned tomatoes, a sour threat to blood vessels and joints after the age of 60. Tomatoes are a symbol of freshness, summer, and health. They are especially popular in the form of tomato sauces, pastes, canned goods, and juices. Many older adults believe that if the label says just tomatoes, then it must be good for you. But behind the bright tang and rich flavor of canned tomatoes lie problems that can quietly undermine the health of your legs, joints, and circulatory system. So, where does the danger lie? Let us start with the nature of tomatoes themselves. They belong to the nightshade family and, like eggplants, contain solanine and lectins, compounds that can trigger inflammation in the joints, muscles, and mucous membranes in some people. When it comes to fresh tomatoes, their effects are often offset by their high content of vitamin C, potassium, and antioxidants. But with canned tomatoes, things become more complicated. First, canned tomatoes undergo thermal processing, during which a significant amount of vitamin C and glutathione, a natural antioxidant, is destroyed. A 2023 study by the Laboratory for Metabolic Disorders at the University of Georgia found that thermally processed tomatoes lose up to 52% of their antioxidant properties, especially with prolonged pasteurization. Second, many canned tomatoes, whether in cans, cartons, or in the form of ketchup, contain added salt and sugar. These two ingredients are especially harmful for older adults. Salt increases blood pressure and causes swelling in the legs, while sugar promotes vascular inflammation. In 2022, the University of Utah conducted a study showing that older adults who consumed canned products with additives had systolic blood pressure levels that were, on average, 9 points higher than those who ate fresh vegetables. But that is not all. Canned tomatoes are often stored in metal containers lined with a material that contains bisphenol A, BPA, an industrial component found in plastics and epoxy resins. Even when within acceptable limits, trace amounts of BPA can enter the food. For the aging body, especially one already dealing with hormonal imbalances, liver issues, or kidney problems, the impact of these substances is much greater. According to a 2022 study published by the Brown University Medical School, people over the age of 60 who had BPA in their urine also had higher levels of C-reactive protein, a marker of inflammation that directly affects joint pain and mobility. Here is another important point. Canned tomatoes contain elevated levels of oxalic acid, oxalates, which interfere with calcium absorption. For older adults who are already facing reduced bone density, this is a serious risk. Calcium loss weakens the joints, makes bones more fragile, and reduces physical stability. In 2023, the National Institute for Rheumatic Diseases in the United States confirmed that women over the age of 65 who regularly consumed foods high in oxalates had a 34% higher risk of developing osteopenia. So, a daily plate of pasta with canned sauce, a bowl of tomato soup, or a sandwich with ketchup is not just tasty, it can be harmful. This kind of diet can impair microcirculation in the legs, increase joint inflammation, and disrupt the balance of essential electrolytes, particularly potassium and magnesium. What can you do? The advice is simple. If you enjoy the taste of tomatoes, choose fresh, ripe, red tomatoes, especially in the summer. Roast them at home at a temperature not exceeding 100 degrees Celsius, 212 degrees Fahrenheit, using minimal salt. Add extra virgin olive oil to improve the absorption of lycopene, the main antioxidant in tomatoes that truly benefits the heart and blood vessels. It is best to avoid canned and store-bought tomato sauces, especially if you already have arthritis, varicose veins, high blood pressure, or diabetes. Sometimes the most powerful step toward better health is not a new pill, but a shift in an old habit. And if you care about your legs, blood vessels, and mobility, removing canned tomatoes from your diet can be a strong and sensible decision. If you have something to say or any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Next, I recommend checking out these videos, and don't forget to leave your likes and comments. I'm looking forward to them.